STP is probably the most important, I would say, subject that you need to learn in marketing. It's pretty easy to explain, not that difficult to understand. However, it's the most difficult thing to apply, because in order to do well STP, you need to have understood well or extremely well everything that we have discussed until now. So STP, the concept of STP is that not everybody is the same, not every customer is the same, and therefore to serve the customers is you have to identify who's the most suitable customer to serve based on who you are. So to do this well, is you have to understand the concept of opportunity, of consumer behavior, of strategy, of marketing research. And if you understand these, then you can do STP. This could never be the first subject to be covered in a marketing class, because it can only be implemented after you have some understanding and experience and knowledge of the material that needs to be understood before. So S is segmentation. If I had to use lame words, simple words in order to define segmentation, because it's a fancy word. Why are we using a fancy word in order to talk about the customers? We're using a fancy word because it's possible. I mean, that's maybe one of the reasons. One of the reasons is marketers want to use words that only they understand and they have defined in order to separate themselves from the crowds. Anyone in the crowd could do marketing. So in order to protect yourself, you give fancy names to a number of subjects. That way you can speak your own language and separate yourself. So what's the language here? Segmentation means dividing. Targeting, which is the next step, means selecting. And then positioning means identifying a meaning, a sense, a description of what the brand is about. So when you do marketing, 100% of the time, maybe I'm going to say 99, because there's not too many things that are 100% in business. So 99 is probably more appropriate. But 99% of the time, you should do segmentation, then targeting, then positioning. That's why it says 1, 2, 3. However, the reality is most businesses, not 99%, but maybe 80% or more of the businesses don't do S, T, and P. And in fact, most of the time, they do P, S, T, which means that they come up with a product, they come up with a brand, they come up with a design, they come up with something that they want to do, and then they try to see if there's anyone who's interested in what they're doing. Unfortunately, when you do that, it's like someone that would go fishing with a special rod that they like, with a bait that they like, in an area of the ocean that they like. Are they going to fish something? Probably not, because normally you have to go backwards, which means that you go to the ocean and you look at the different fish that are there. And based on the different fish that are there, you decide which one you think you want to catch. I want to catch a salmon. So to catch a salmon, I need this fishing rod to go at that time with that bait. But if you do it the opposite, and that's why there's so many businesses that fail, which is that you just go with whatever is in the way, whatever bait is there, and whatever fishing rod, whatever, even the hook matter. Not every hook works for every fish. If you're trying to catch a big fish with a small hook, it's not going to work. And the opposite is true too. And I'm telling you this from someone who's not an experienced fisher. I'm not an expert fisher or anything. These are just common sense. Common sense is extremely important in business, and that's why there's a lot of people that can do well in business without having a business degree. And I should not be saying that. I'm a full professor, tenure, PhD, and all of this professor, but I can because we just heard James Gavigan that just came. And essentially, when you ask him the question is, what degree do you need to do that? It took a long time to answer because he knows a bunch of people that are doing this kind of thing without a degree or with a degree that has nothing to do with it. So there's still a lot of room for people who have common sense, and therefore having a degree should not be what makes you feel confident that you will be successful in doing anything. You will be successful because you have common sense. You will be successful because you're focused on who you're serving. And so here the concept is who you're serving is what leads what you're going to do. So the first stage is to realize that you have to identify. So this is segmentation. Targeting is selecting within all the different characteristics that you have identified, because you can't be doing something that's going to please everyone equally. There will be different orders of satisfaction. And then positioning is once you know who they are, you will use the words, you will use the slogan, you will use the image, the identity, the brand identity that you think these people want to hear. Do you have any questions? Okay, so I keep on going. The way you identify different customers is by dividing them.
Professor, I have a question. Pardon me.
No problem.
Let's just say hypothetically, if you you had your own business, and maybe you do, what's your take on hiring someone with or without a degree? I mean, what are your feelings about that?
Well, if I hired someone and I worried if they have a degree, I would not look at the prestige of the school. I would not look at specifically the degree that they've done. Is I would ask them what they've done and ask them, what have you done that you want to tell me the story about? Because I would want to see that they're problem solvers. I don't know if you remember this. This was 2 weeks ago. I had someone that everybody knows. It's like the dream job in social media. So everybody wants to work in social media, and everybody dreams to work with this person. I run into this person. They say, "Oh, very good." They give me their cards, their personal cards, and they say, "If you know a good student, let me know." 2 hours after, my student assistant asked me, "Oh, professor, if you see a good job, can you let me know?" At that time, I said, "Oh, you will not believe it. I run into so-and-so, and therefore I'm going to connect you to this person." Then I talked to this person. I said, "I have a very good person, my student assistant. She's very good. I will connect you with her." And then this person said, "Yes, have her send me her curriculum vitae and her bio and a portfolio of the thing that she's done." I contacted her and I said, "So-and-so wants the bio, the CV, and the portfolio of things you've done." You will never believe what she said. She said, "I don't have time to create a portfolio."
That's insane.
I don't have time. But it's very funny because I have to put it back into perspective. The student several times told me, "Oh my God, I love social media. I will murder someone to find a good job in social media." And there I brought her probably one of the best jobs she could ever get to. But she found that it was insulting that this person was asking for a portfolio. Why would this person asking for a portfolio? Because getting a degree from a prestigious school doesn't mean anything. It means something. What it means is that you can work very hard. In the prestigious school, it's very hard to go. You have to be very diligent. You have to work crazy hours. You have to work 12, 14 hours a day, 16 hours a day. You have to do things that you don't like. You have to be somewhat smart. You have to work very hard. Someone that goes to university has these skills. They work very hard. They're hardworking. But what you want is not someone who is arrogant because they went to the university and they think they know better than everybody else. Is you want someone that their confidence and their sort of arrogance, their ego goes into the work that they do. It goes into the work that they do, into the results. They want to be judged on their results. You want someone who is loyal, someone that is loyal, someone that has a good common sense and doesn't judge, that gives benefit of the doubt as well. So they are not like constantly, you have to do something to them, otherwise they forget. There's a lot of people, if you do something to them, they do something to you right away. because they don't like to own something to someone. And there's some other people, you do something to them, they disappear because they don't want to do something back to you. And they feel like they are in a position where they own you something, and they don't like that. And so you want someone that is really people oriented, that likes to talk about their successes, that likes to talk about the difficulties they've had and the fact that they have to look for solution. And so someone who comes and wants a solution. So the typical person that goes to a job interview, they go to this job interview and they go, well, I'm stressed because I'm worried about the question they're going to ask me. And then they go to there, and then they try to defend themselves. They're in the defensive position. A good person that goes to an interview is someone that already looked at the company and look at what the company did in the past, are doing in the present, look at what everybody else is doing in the future, sort of a SWOT analysis of that company. And when they meet in the interview, they talk about what they already think that they would like to do for the company. Most of the people, when they go to a job interview, they go there because they want a revenue. It's like, why do you want this job? I want this job. And then they're going to not say it because I need to eat and I need to pay my bills. Most people are not going to say that, but that's the way it's going to come across. Most people, when they hire someone, is they want a solution provider. So the perfect person is someone that comes and say, I want this job because I can't wait to bring solution to problems that I see, because I'm a very good team player and I want to contribute to the success of this company. And I have solutions. I've already looked into this. I think my experience would be helpful. And I'm not looking for a job position. I'm not looking for an income. I'm looking for my next challenge, because this is not going to be easy, but I want to do it because I feel that I can do it. So this kind of attitude, 5% of the time, 95% of the time is people are passive and like, give me the job because I need to do something. No, people, they don't like to pay people just to keep them busy, and they're looking for a solution provider. So people from the university sometimes is a problem because they think they got a degree and therefore they deserve. I deserve a job. I finished I'm a graduated senior or whatever. I got this degree. I was an A student, so I deserve. Nobody deserves anything. You just have maybe 1 second more than someone that doesn't have a degree that they're going to listen to. So what have you done? What did you do? So here's a little bit the same. In the project that I gave you this semester is the easiest one in 26 years. Why is it the easiest one? Because I already gave you the opportunity, and then you have to find a company that would sort of fit for this opportunity, versus before, I gave them a brand and they had to find an opportunity. So it's like saying, think about the best sport and then think about someone for this best sport. Is a lot easier than, here's Bob. Imagine the sport that Bob should be doing. Bob has a much more narrow perspective into what sports could he be a champion, because Bob has limitations. So here, I'm actually widening the limitation by saying, think about the sports and then pick whoever is going to be the athletes that you're going to take. So it's a lot easier, and therefore it's an opportunity. And here again is your own story. You're doing this project, you're doing it with a team. This is going to be 4 months of your life. There is something that you want to put in your portfolio. There is something that you want to be able to talk to someone when you have a job interview of what you had that was difficult, what you had that was easy because you had experience from before, and what you learned and how this prepared you. So it's this kind of attitude. The hardest thing in business is not finding the money. The hardest thing in business is not finding the idea. The hardest thing in business is finding the people that are going to take the challenge, the people that you're going to be able to trust, and the people that are going to be tenacious and find solutions. Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir, it did. Thank you very much. You dropped a lot of gems.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Dylan. Go ahead, Dylan. I see that you have your hand up. Maybe your microphone or something.
Well, I like what you said, just learning from that. I mean, sometimes it's, a lot of the time isn't what we've, I mean, it is what we've done yesterday, but it's also what we're doing today. You know, every single day is kind of another opportunity to move forward and building ourselves, kind of expanding our abilities. And, you know, with, for example, building a portfolio, it's, you know, it's kind of itself, it provides this this kind of building that narrative of kind of one's work, but also kind of, I don't know, I was reading something about kind of the episodic quality of it, and kind of almost like a saga. And, you know, we all start from square one, but what do we build from then? Kind of expanding that outward. And just like how, you know, Kobe Bryant being one of the best basketball players.
Yes.
And just one of these stories is that while he was on the court, he didn't use his notoriety to be able to win the game. Oftentimes, he would wake up at really freaking early hours, like 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and he would be and he'd practice every single day, and always be, you know, just honing his skills, and also making sure to build, you know, building good team skills and everything, and communicating with one's peers, and just always seeing how we can improve on things, and how we can be able to, you know, in the event that we have to show up at, you know, a certain event, for example. I think that was so amazing. You know, he said he had to fly out the next day, you know, cross country to help organize an event. You know, just that itself is like really showing a person's really high quality dedication to one's craft, and things like that. There's so much to learn from that, I think, especially from our position as students, that to build our careers with something that is sustainable, but also, you know, that it really builds, I think, you know, that it builds a good, healthy sense of confidence, I think, is that's something that I learned from it, from just my singular, you know, one of 131 participants.
Oh yeah, there's a fantastic video, one of my favorite video of Kobe Bryant. It's the title is exactly what we're talking about. It's called Kobe Bryant, Winners Do Not Make Excuses. And so it's exactly what you're saying. In this video, he says that he never tried to make excuses. If he loses, there's no excuses. It's all him. He is the only responsible person for his failure. He takes 100% ownership of his failures. Winners do not make excuses. And so therefore, when you have this attitude, you can only progress because you're analyzing what you did. You can't control what everybody else is doing, but you can control what you're doing. And he said, you know, he was a wonderful basketball player that got very successful at a young age. And as he became older, he went into more difficult tournaments. And when he was in these more difficult tournaments, he realized he was not the tallest, not the fastest, not the one that jumped higher, not the one with the biggest hand and all of this. In fact, if you were doing a SWOT analysis, when he came to strengths and weaknesses, he didn't have enough strength, and it became weaker and weaker as he was in better and better leagues. So what he decided is the only way to succeed is to stop making excuses. So he was the one that trained the most hours a day. He was the one that trained the most days a week. He was the one that tried harder and harder and harder. And he said that's what he did in basketball. And that's what he did as a business person, is just you try harder, you work harder, you perfect yourself. And that's exactly what you said. It's the level of dedication that he had that was quite remarkable. So in business, it's the same. Is you can't give too much value to the concept of luck. Luck is 1% maximum. 99% is and more is preparation, and that's what James today was talking about. So you have to prepare yourself. You have to surround yourself of the right people. You have to trust people, but to some extent, you have to develop experiences. You have to have a short-term vision, a long-term vision, and you have to make sure there's a connection between these two. A lot of skills, and the reality is those skills you either have them or you don't. Then when it comes to experience is you acquire them with experience, and if you're smart, you don't repeat your mistakes and you make progresses. So when people ask me, what's the best age? Should I start a business when I'm 25 or should I wait when I'm 45? Well, there's benefits in both ages. When you're 25, you have the energy and you have you're so candid that you don't see anything wrong and you just go for it, which is really good because you need to have that passion. But when you're 45, you also have the experience that if you don't repeat the same mistakes, when you're 45, you're probably even in better position, but you don't have the same energy and you are have sometimes more responsibilities that makes it also harder to do all the things that dedication that needs to be given. So this all to say is that which one is the best, 25 or 45? I can't say. They're both very good for different reasons, and therefore there's no age to start or to stop. It's up to you and what you have, and you only have one life, at least at the moment, and therefore you should make the best out of it. That's my perspective. So how do you divide people? That's the first step of segmentation. You divide them according to, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time, according to the characteristics on how you explain the behavior of a consumer. So a consumer is explained mostly by their culture. Your culture defines how you make decisions. So therefore you can divide people based on their culture. You could have multiple cultures and say characteristics of division equals culture. Characteristics of segmentation equal culture. But you could say also it's the social class, you could say also the different personality, you could say it's also psychological. So other characteristics are demographic, what age, what gender, but also geographic, where do you live? And also a combination of different elements called psychographics, where you have social class, lifestyle, and personality all combined together that generate a specific psychographic. And then behavioral. Behavioral is essentially what's the main benefit? What is the reason that makes you buy this product? So obviously, I just said that culture was very important, but behavioral is also very important. Why do you buy this product? So hybrid segmentation is when you have multiple characteristics combined together. So segmentation can be made of a single characteristics, but what's a segment? A segment is a combination of characteristics. So you could say man, old, educated, woman, young, not educated. And it's just gender, age, and level of education. These are the three segmentation characteristics. Then a good segmentation characteristic is one that is measurable because it's quantitative. So the age you can measure, how many people are between 30 and 40 years old. Accessible is that you can eventually define where they are. Substantial means it's not too small, because if you are to say, women over 6'4", which are red hair with green eyes and over 70 years old, suddenly that's a small group at the end, and therefore it's not substantial. Is the more you segment, you use characteristics in order to specify who are the people, the more you become micro-segmented, which in a way increase the likelihood that you won't satisfy these people because you take them almost as a one person. But the more you micro segment, the smaller your market, and the less likely that you're going to be making much profits, or you're going to have to charge a huge amount of money. And then you have to make sure that these people are willing to spend this kind of amount of money. And that's the issue of actionable, is if you were to create this product, which is essentially looking at these people specifically, well, they want to buy the product. Differential, which means that you don't want to divide people with characteristics that don't make too much of a difference. So if you were to say, I'm going to sell toothpaste for people from 20 to 23, 24 to 27, and 28 to 30. And so you're creating 3 segments, but at the end of the day, their benefits or the reason why they buy toothpaste is the same from 20 to 30. Therefore, you you had no reason to create so many segments, which at the end up being the same. Targeting is much easier than segmenting. Targeting is selecting the groups and the groups that are the best. So you select the groups and you have multiple groups, and therefore you try to see which one makes the most sense, because there's like a pyramid, there's like an organigram. So you have people, then you have men, women, like young, old, very old. So that's like young, old, very old for the men, young, old, very old for the women. Then you have educated, not educated. So it's like not educated, educated for the very old, for the medium, for the young, for the men, for the women. So as you develop all of these potential groupings, it's like a puzzle. Targeting is trying to identify of all of these, what's the best combination, which one is most likely to be the one that will respond best to your product and generate the most revenue. So it's a question of this, therefore, the segment size and growth, the structural attractiveness, meaning that there is some something that is part of your strength that you can make this product that will be definitely well received by that group of consumers that your competitors are not specialized on. So it's a specific group. You're selling pasta, but it's a low gluten pasta. So it's people looking for low gluten. They're buying low gluten bread, and then you decide to do a low gluten pasta. Nobody's making low gluten pasta. You're good at making pasta. You're good at being innovative and coming up with a solution with a gluten. That's your strength. Therefore, you should go after the specific group, which is growing and which is something that does not hurt your company. So if your company is known for quality pasta and low gluten pasta was to make a not very good pasta, maybe you didn't want to do it because you have a reputation of being high quality. So it would be high quality pasta and now still high quality gluten pasta, assuming that this could still be good. Okay. So when you go into defining if you should have one target or multiple targets or no targets, you have three choices. The first one is called undifferentiated targeting strategy. Undifferentiated targeting strategy, which means that you're going to make one product knowing that there's no specific single group of people that want it. Concentrated is where, so that's very rare. Non-specific group, it is becoming very rare because there's too much competition in America and everything is being aggressively competing in the markets, and therefore there's I mean, not even electricity. I mean, now you have different source of electricity. You could use solar and different solar panel supplier and so forth. So there's gas you could use. So different source of energies. So everything is being put in a situation where you have to target and use a specific target. If you create a product which is just for one specific target, this is called differentiated. So it's the opposite of undifferentiated. One product for all. So it's like mineral water for all, tap water for all, Coca-Cola for all. That's undifferentiated. Now, different Coca-Cola for different people, different specific group of targets, that would be differentiated. And then concentrated is in between, which means that you don't have one product for one target. You have one product for a combination of targets. The idea here is either it was a product that was sold for one target, and now you're in the position where you need to increase the amount of product that you make in order to decrease the price it's costing you to make that product. So you widen the market, but by widening the market, you have to target more people. And so you have to assume that reducing the price will widen the number of people that will want to buy the product. So then you can cover more targets. But if the targets are still looking for something specific, by trying to sell a product to a grouping of people that are still quite different, you're not going to be successful. So I have some example coming. Do you have any questions? So when you sell breakfast cereal, most of the consumption is made by children. So you cannot succeed selling breakfast cereal unless you have a little cartoon character. But which cartoon character you're going to use is based on who is the customer that you're going to go after. It's based also on your resources, because famous cartoon characters are making it much easier, but they cost a lot of money in licensing that cartoon character. So depending on your revenue. So if you're like a supermarket brand, you can't afford to use a Disney character. But if you're a brand like Kellogg's, you could afford to have a Disney character. But sometimes you find that it's unnecessary, that you can just find a character that is appealing enough for the target. But should it be a tiger? Should it be a turtle? Should it be a frog? Should it be a toucan? Should it be an alligator? That's not something that you decide just based on the person that's going to do the design. The person that decides that is the marketer after they consulted with the customers. So the last element of STP, and again, I explained that it should be always S, then T, and then P. It could not be, T could never be first, because S is dividing and T is selecting in what you've divided. So it's like you need to have, you can't make a decision of where to go on vacation before you make a decision where to go on vacation. Is you have to think about the option of where you could go on vacation. So first you think about the option and then you make a decision. Here's the same thing. It has to be S and T. So it cannot be TPS or TSP or whatever. It has to be either PST or STP. STP is the correct way to go because it's going by who are the people and what do they want, versus let's make something and worry about who it is for afterwards. If you do this, you increase your chances of failing. Even if you do STP, you still have a chance to fail, but your chances to fail are much greater if you do PST. However, if what you're selling is somewhat artistic, it has a huge component of creativity, which is directly connected to the designer or the stylist, like a fashion product or like a luxury product. In that particular situation, it's possible to imagine that PST be okay, where you have a designer comes up with a design, and then the design is given to the consumers to appreciate, a little bit like a musician that will develop some music, and then the people will listen to the music and say, wow, I love this musician and I like his style or her style, and therefore I buy their music. But just know that even in music or even in art or even in luxury brands oftentimes are PST, but not as often as we think. Most luxury brands now are being developed as a STP, which is, even though it's going to be exclusive, expensive, very high quality and rare and all of that, it's still made for a specific person, because they want to ensure that it's going to be satisfying them before they even get to experience the product, because they want to maximize the revenue and the profit. So positioning should be last, because now you know who the product is for, and positioning, it's the meaning, the attributes that the brand has in consumer minds. Is what do they think when they think about, what do they think when they hear about ventes? Ventes is value. What do they think when they hear about Walmart? More for less. What do they think about when they hear Amazon? 1 day delivery, 2 day delivery. Okay, so that's the positioning. Positioning is that one short attribute, simple one dimension attribute, two dimension attribute that summarize the reason why people want to buy that brand. But that can only be defined after you define who's the customer. Because if your customer is a young female, I mean, a 12 years old young female, what they expect the brand to, the meaning of the brand is going to be very different than a male that is 55. Therefore, you have to define who it is for in order to define what's the attribute. Sometimes I would even say, and that's not right, but that there's some brands that the attribute could be many different attributes. They could say, this laundry detergent is perfect for white, keeping white. Same detergent. I think this detergent is perfect for keeping colors. So that's the opposite, but it works. This detergent is very good for people that have big stains, lots of stains, lots of situations where they make themselves dirty, they remove stains. Still, it's the same detergent, laundry detergent, but they will use different attributes to talk about the product because these attributes are representative of who they want the product to be purchased by. Someone that has a lot of stain will be very different than someone that want to keep it white, will be someone different that use a lot of colors. That's what marketing is about. Marketing is about the delivery of customer satisfaction at profits for a long term. But you can't satisfy everybody. You have to pick who you're going to satisfy, because by selecting and being very clear about who you're trying to satisfy from the get-go, you maximize the chances of making a product that they will be satisfied with. The worst thing you can do is be self-centered and make a product that you like and then hope that there's other people that are going to like it. And it's just luck that's going to make you successful. You want to minimize luck and you want to increase the prediction that you will be successful. And how to increase this is by following the customers and giving them what they want. Do you have any questions? So the tool to measure positioning, there's two tools. There's the perceptual map and the positioning map. The perceptual map is the map that is used in order to say where you want, what you want your image to be. The positioning map is the same map, but it's not from the marketer perspective. The marketer says where they want their brand to be in terms of the attributes. The attributes is high quality, low quality, very expensive, affordable. So the marketer says, we want to be moderately affordable and high quality. That's what the marketer says. What the marketer says might not be true. It's like a student saying, what would you want your grade to be? Most students would say, I want my grade to be an A. But the truth is when they go and take an exam, and after the exam, you can see what's the true grade that they have. So a brand is the same. The marketer desire for the positioning is explained and described in a map, which is called the perceptual map. I'll show you one in a second. And the positioning map is the same map, but it's not defined by the marketer, by the consumers this time. So here's a hotel group from the Marriott, and they have different brands. They have two attributes. One is price, and the other one is quality. So do you always use two attributes? No. You oftentimes use one attribute. The advantage of one attribute, it makes it easier to be focused on that one single attribute. The problem is you are in a competitive world where your competitors have also used one attribute, and now they are started using two attributes. So if you keep using one, it's likely that you will have lesser to offer with one attribute than someone that has two. Then the problem is if too many people have two, it is likely that you try to have three. Now the problem with three, and it's more so than two, is that the more attributes you have, and it starts at 2.5. The more attributes you have, the least people really understand where you stand. What's your image? And if you say the image of my brand is high quality, medium price, high availability, quick and easy location. I mean, if you keep adding those attributes, what happens is it's impossible that you have all of these attributes, and therefore it cancels out. Every time you add one attribute, people forget the other one. So you get no benefit in having more attributes because you create more confusion. So what's the right amount? The sweet spot, I would say, just to have to sort of dig myself out of this question, is I would say it's 1.5. So obviously 1.5 doesn't exist. So it's between 1, depending on who you are, between 1 and 2. But more than 2, it should, if I had to give a percentage, is I would say 50% of the brand can take 1, 45% of the brand can take 2, and 5% can take 3, and 0% more than 3. So when you teach positioning, just for the sake of teaching, just for the sake of education, just for the sake of explaining it to someone that has never heard about it, you use price and quality as the attributes of positioning, just to teach. Are there lots of companies that use these, even though it should be just used for teach? Yes, there's lots of companies that still use these, even though they should only be used to teach the concept. Why so? Because it's like a standard way of, and it's easy to understand and easy to manipulate. Positioning is the most complicated concept in marketing. It's the one that takes more work and more research and all this. You don't wing it, and it's sort of the result of everything that you've done before: the strategy, the objectives, the research, the consumer behavior, the environment, and all of this. So you have to do all of this extremely well before you can get to do the positioning very well. And therefore, you need to come up with very specific attributes of positioning. What is wrong with price and quality? So I repeat the question. Yeah, I repeat the question. Thank you. So the problem was in practice, not in teaching. Teaching, price and quality are very simple and easier to understand. But the problem, but they're not specific. I know I say, what's the problem with these characteristics? And then you could say, you just said it's not specific. Can I say that? Yes, that would be a correct answer. It's not specific. But what does that mean?
It's subjective.
It's subjective, exactly. So which one is, well, they're both very subjective, but there's one is extremely subjective. Which one do you think is very subjective, even more subjective? That's the problem with price, and that's the problem with quality.
I'd say quality is more subjective.
Exactly, quality is more subjective. Because you could be looking at, I don't know, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, and someone may find this person really attractive, and the other one may find this person not attractive, because what they will perceive as quality would be very different. Or buying, it's very personal. The concept of quality is very personal. So what's a quality hotel? You're going to an hotel. How do people, what is the first characteristic of a quality hotel?
Driveway.
Driveway. What
Oh
do you
wait,
mean?
no, I take that back. The building itself.
Yeah, the
Like,
appearance.
driving near the hotel to be able to see the building, like to see the hotel, and then like, wow, that's the hotel. It's, it's tall, it's well, the architecture is kind of aesthetically attractive. It entices you to arrive there. It
Yes.
brings you in. It lures you in a way.
So it's like, yes.
To add to that fishing of the in the big ocean of the city, to be able to drive one's ship and then to see the landmark. And
Yeah, so the landmark, right? The aesthetic, the opulence, the design, the architecture, the landscape, the landmark. Okay, Very rarely someone says that, but I think that has what I like about it is it's very deep, and it may not be something that people say, but it may be in truth something that people think. So that's oftentimes the problem, is what people say in terms of quality, it is very different than what people think in terms of quality. And JD Power has done a lot of research on that, because obviously they consult with hotels, and they found one of the main characteristics for Americans, and it's not the landmark, but I would not be surprised it's pretty high up in the ranking. What else do you think?
All right, that itself might have been a subjective characteristic, but another one is oftentimes the driveway in the lobby, because if a customer is able to be able to go to the hotel, and when they're parking their car, if it's a very easy experience, very natural, everyone's friendly, then their perception of the quality, at least I would imagine this, is like, for example, going to the Venetian at Las Vegas, is going to the hotel, they help with, or like the Langham Hotel in Pasadena. Everyone's very helpful to be able to get that car, minimal stress experience. And therefore it adds to that quality of the, wow, they really are like knowledgeable about how to help kind of visit that hotel. And I think that goes up on the scale. But when one walks into the lobby, immediately that's going to be the view of the interior of whether or not they can perceive like that's a good hotel or a bad hotel or something like that. Like in a Venetian hotel, for example, it immediately immerses one into that perceptive experience. And I think that's just possibly a subjective characteristic, but those are some things I look for in terms of quality for a hotel.
Yes. Okay, these
I
are
would
good.
say, just to add on that, I would say the amenities that they offer.
So the amenities that they offer, yes. So which one do you think in particular?
I would say the pool, probably one
So
of
the
the
pool,
more popular ones.
Yeah, so the pool, having a pool, not having a pool. So, hotels are rated, and there's a standard rating. Like you have a pool, you have one elevator, you have more than one elevator, you have a restaurant, you have a gym, and you have conference room. Obviously, these amenities raise the level of quality of the hotel, and it's even regulated. Then the perception of the people may be also very connected to this amount of amenities. Yes. What are the characteristics, do you think?
I would say cleanliness is a big deal. Like if it looks really dirty, then it's going to turn a lot of people off.
Exactly. So see, it's funny because I think it was Dylan talking about the wow of going into the lobby. I don't want to say bad things about a specific area because people may think I picked on it, but it happens to me quite a number of times going to New York, where I would be impressed by the lobby, and then I would go in my room and I would not be impressed by the room. And it would be lobby plus room. So it's like 1 minus 1, sort of thing, where the room will be very much more modest. So like the lobby will be very opulent and the room will be extremely modest. And sometimes it will be even in terms of the cleanliness. I think the cleanliness is also very important. And in fact, the number one characteristic of an hotel is related to the cleanliness. And if you ask people, and you do that to thousands of people, it's actually the sense of smell. A lot of people judge the quality of an hotel on the amenities, the services, the landmark, the size of the room, the quality within the bathrooms, the gift, all the store, and all those different things. But the number one thing is quality, and quality is mostly explained by the smell. It's kind of interesting because if it smells good, people think it's clean, or they think it's more clean than it is. So in fact, cleaning a room is a lot of work. It's much less work to basic cleaning the room and put a lot of smell, because a lot of smell takes a few seconds, and you get more for your bang by adding perfume in the room because people use their sense of smell to make judgment. And they're funny judgment because they're judgment where people are very convinced if it smells good, it's good. So when you talk about positioning and you think about what should the brand be positioned, you cannot use quality, almost never, because the markets are so competitive that therefore you have to really analyze what is quality in the eyes of your target. There's different targets, there's different segments, there's different customers. Therefore, people perceive quality, like the little questions that we just did, the Q&A we just did, shows that there's different characteristics. And therefore, you would have to say, you know what, my customer cares about the landmark. So then you focus on the landmark because that's who your customer cares. The other customers cares about the lobby. The other one cares about the amenities. The other one cares about the services. The other one cares about the cleanliness. And therefore, that becomes where you will focus. And so if you want to sell it to the people that care about the cleanliness, all you're going to do is focus that works. And that works the way they perceive it, not the way they should perceive it, because the way they should perceive it, it's like a cleaning expert will have different characteristics than a Lambda customer. Again, a Lambda customer is mostly going to use their sense of smell. Do you have any comments?
You know, that's such a great point also, is because I remember going to this one hotel in Vegas, and while the room itself, the room itself was very nice, though the air circulation, for some reason, there was a lot of dust.
Yes.
So I think kind of on that quality side, I mean, like the bathroom was nice. There was really, really nice soaps and candles, and you know, sometimes the hotels might provide flowers or something, or and that helps kind of with the just the overall experience, the atmosphere as well as the environment. But in one hotel, I remember it was the air was so dusty that throughout one night's sleep, there was several times when one had to wake up because it was hard to breathe sometimes, and you know, that affects everyone, and that it kind of influences the experience, especially, you know, quite relevant to today's times as well.
Yes, and in fact, if you were to Google Las Vegas and air duct and issues and disease, you'll find a lot of information on the internet that talks about that specific subject. That was before COVID even. And it's the same thing in airlines as well. There's a lot of strange issues related to those air ducts. And so when it comes to hotels and areas where there's a lot of people, that's not just an issue about luxury, it's an issue even of health concern. And so, you know, depending who was in the room, who is next to your room and all of this, and where does the air duct go, and what kind of filter, and when did they change the filter and all that, it has a huge incidence. And so that's something that it will be very carefully monitored in high-end hotel and less so monitored in lower-end hotels. And the same thing with airlines, who have a different policy when it comes to the type of oxygen that they use and all of that. So again, you don't give random things to the customers, you really focus on it. Here's another example of different brands of cars. So you have Lincoln, Cadillac, you have Pontiac, Toyota, Volkswagen, and you have different characteristics. So a car I'm proud of, so it's like a prestige versus a practical car. The top is the prestige, the bottom is the practicality. The left is a car that is more for older people, and then the right is a car that is more for spirited younger people. So all of these brands are sort of positioned where so this is a perceptual map. So it's the map as designed by the marketers. So it's the wish from the marketers. And maybe if this marketer is Ford, they position themselves in a specific area where they think they belong. Then the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is where you have like the largest consumer. And essentially this map will allow you to analyze where are we, where are the customers, and how close we are from these pockets. And this analysis will be essentially looking at the gap there is between you and the customer. So you see that Chevrolet is right in the middle, and then you will see that 2, 3, 4, and 5 have nobody in the middle of it. They have people around it. There's people, some like 2 is sort of isolated, and then 3 is also sort of isolated. And therefore you could think that these are positioning that you may want to change. So again, it's most of the time what it is STP and then STP again. So it's a repositioning where you find what the customer wants, you give them what they want, the market evolves, and you have to constantly reposition yourself because you have to change the product in order to follow the customers. Now I'm going to look quickly on those final slides, which are actually showing you the same thing, but instead of being multiple slides, this one slide explains the same thing, where you have like 6 steps, if you want, 2 steps for each one. And so what's market segmentation is identifying and dividing the market into different groups, depending on the characteristics. What's targeting? Targeting is organizing this grouping into clusters and then selecting which one of the cluster is the one that you're going to go after. So you're going to make a product for a single target that's going to be differentiated. You're going to make a product from combination of targets that's going to be concentrated, or you're going to make no specific focus on any of the targets. You're going to sell one product for everyone. Even though you know there's differences, you assume that those differences are not significant and they're not going to create a difference between the customer, that it's not necessary to make multiple products. So you make one product, but for everyone, no one specifically. And that's very rare. Like I said, I teach to you so you know that there's 3 methods of using targeting, but there's one that's almost does not exist anymore, which is undifferentiated. And then the last piece, once you've done your S and your T, is you should look at what is the image that we want to vehiculate, that we want to communicate. And here is who's the target, and therefore, what do we need to say for them to care for who we are? So now let's look at a graph. Let's say you're looking at customers, and each one of these is, let's say, 100,000 customers, and they all go into this format. When you look at this format, you see some cluster. So this cluster, each one of these is a segment. Okay, imagine this. But each one of these are a segment, but at the end of the day, you want to do S, T, and P. So you're going to try to go to the next stage, which is saying, I wonder if I could see 3 targets in there. And in fact, you would say that the 3 targets are the grouping of these. So these are combined targeting strategies by grouping between these 2 different designs, because there's some cluster that are like naturally differentiating themselves. Maybe because you use characteristic, again, let's say if we are to teach it, just use the characteristic of price and quality, is you will see that if you use price and quality for a shampoo, you'll see that there's grouping of people and such within your market. Then if you look at it, you will see that there's 3 groups, and each one of these groups is different. Maybe the red is a higher income, maybe the purple is more women, and maybe the gray is the people that look more sud in their shampoo and they want more bubble in the shampoo. But then when you look at these again, you can further target them into realizing that there's more target. Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to not take the original large target size and try to go inside this group and look for more definition, more division? Why would you do that?
Be more tailored to that demographic, basically.
Yes, exactly. To be more tailored to that target. Because if you say more tailored to that demographic means that you're talking about their age, their gender, their generation, right? It's a demographic. If I go back very quickly, it's one characteristic of segmentation. So if you say to be more tailored to that behavioral, right? You could say that, but the problem is if you were, let's see, if you were more tailored to that behavioral, that would create a problem.
Makes sense to stay target. Thanks.
So what I did is I have a very quick video that I wanted to show you. Let me put it on. This was someone I met in the plane, sitting next to, and I was like, oh, what do you do? I do this, and what do you do? And it was interesting because he had a company that was essentially supplying services for businesses to understand how to better target to their customers. So it's called Alvanon. And you will see in here, they explain that they found a way to help the fashion industry. The fashion industry has an issue, which is that they make garments with different sizes. And these different sizes, what's a S, what's a M, and what's a L, and what's a XL, as depending on which area in the United States, a S is not a S. Maybe in one state area of Texas, a S is more like a XS, or M is more like a L. So they made an analysis of all the millions of people that live in the USA, and then they have a better understanding of their sizes and the connection between their sizes and the type of size they really belong to. Using this, then you are able to sell products, and the online store are reducing, therefore, the amount of return that they get, because people order based on their size, but their size is not the same. But depending on where they're ordering this product, there's an algorithm that's measured how many people who are ordering that size and what's the typical S in the area from where they're ordering it in order to reduce. That's deep, deep, deep segmentation and targeting. The idea behind this is that you have to constantly look for differences among the consumers. So here's a table that looks at toothpaste, and here what you do is when you go and going in targeting, I jumped down one. When you go in going into targeting, is your target can also be called your personas. So first, here are the characteristics of segmentation. So age, benefits, usage, loyalty, personality, being married, having children, and the type of income you have. All of these go into different targets. So then you could have many more than 4 targets, but at the end you select 4 potential targets. Target 1, you give it a name. You don't keep calling it target 1, you call it persona 1, target 1. So it's the warrior. Target 2, the cheapo. Target 3, the busy bee. Target 4, chicabella or something. So these are going to be combination of characteristics. Targeting is looking outside and saying, all right, people are going to buy shoes because they want not to get cold. People may be buying shoes because they live in places where they could hurt themselves. They need to wear shoes. People buy different type of shoes for different activities people want. And so that's why I sent you this opportunity last week of this company that's created technology to where the shoe is connected to your phone or connected to your watch, and it gives you more information. So that perception that you could have shoes that are connected, there's the fact that the shoe is connected to Earth in order to give you some kind of health, but there's a shoe that is connected also to what you do. And I mean, that could be the combination of opportunity that this shoe is about connection, not just the technology connection. It's a Earth connection, it's a wave connection, it's a ultrasonic connection. I don't know what all the connection, but it's the connected shoes. And that could be, therefore, the combination, opportunities of earthing and opportunities of people looking for more technology in everything that they buy. And then which brand will be the best brand to therefore cultivate technology within the shoe, but at the same time, some kind of ecological, personal, esoteric type of relationship with the shoe. Johnny Walker is a very famous, it's the most famous brand of whiskey. A few years ago, they created Johnny Walker for women, which they call Jane Walker. So that's like the simple STP, is we make whiskey, and they've been making whiskey for what, probably more than 150 years. And suddenly they decide to make a whiskey for women. It took them a long time. And now they are making their whiskey also for women. But yes, Umberto, I see that you have a question.
Yeah, really quick, Professor. But that would be considered market penetration, right?
No, it would not be. So market penetration would be that if Johnny Walker decided to do a cheaper Johnny Walker in a plastic bottle, and they would say, you know, it's just all same thing, but it's a plastic bottle. So the advantage is it's not going to break, and the advantage is because it's a cheaper packaging. Instead of selling it to you for $35, we sell it to you for $29 because of the plastic packaging. Because of the plastic packaging, it's the same shape, the same everything. You only can tell when you hold the bottle. They can sell it cheaper, and therefore, since they can sell it cheaper, they hope to sell more. Market penetration is selling more of the same thing to the same people. Here, the men are not going to buy the Jane Walker whiskey, I suppose. So this product was not meant to be created so men would buy another whiskey. This product was created so women will specifically want to buy this whiskey. Therefore, it's market development.
Okay.
Yeah,
yeah. I suppose. I mean, a man can. I mean, I guess this is just a matter of opinion. A man can buy the Jane Walker for the ladies, right? So.
Yeah, well, you could, but you see, when penetration is to sell the same people, same product.
Right. That I understand that.
And diversification, you sell the same product to someone else that didn't buy the product before, or you can or would want to buy more of the product before. Right now, I work for a company that makes cigarettes, and they created a cigarette line for women, and that hasn't been done very much. And so there's some woman that says, "Oh, I don't need my own brand of cigarettes," and there's some woman that says, "Finally, someone is making cigarettes for me." So that is diversification. It's like straight from the book for women. When they may, what happened is it's more than just one, because if they didn't change the product, which is the case of the Jane Walker, it's just a logo change on the bottle, then it's diversification. But if they change the bottle, if they change the blend, the taste of the whiskey, if they make a lot of changes like this, it's diversification and new product development. So can you have two strategies at once in order to serve the purpose of one objective? Yes, you can. If you change the product and who's going to be buying it, that's both strategy of new product development and diversification. Thank you for your question. That way people get to connect. So that's why I'm glad you asked this question, because you see positioning STP connects to what you learned before. It's directly connected. This one is one that I like, because when I was a student like you, when I did my first bachelor of marketing, I went through the exam, the final exam, because in France it's different. You don't have an exam every semester. You have all your exam at the end of the year. So I don't know, let's say you're taking 5 classes right now. You're doing quiz 1, quiz 2, quiz 3, take-home assignment and all this. And in France, they don't do that for the most part. You do nothing. You have no exam, you have no nothing. And then comes between June 5th and June 20, you have all your exam, everything you studied the entire year. I'm not saying it's better. In fact, I don't think it's better. I think it's worse, but that's the way it was. So then I showed up in June and I went into the exam for marketing, and the exam was about Gillette. And back then, that was in the 90s, Gillette looks like the black Gillette that you have right there. It had 2 blades, okay? And so we had to read a case, and we had to come up with a marketing plan for Gillette. And essentially what they wanted us to do is to think about adding a third blade, which was the Gillette that you see right on the right, which was created later in the 90s. And then in 2000, they created the 4-blade, and then they created the 5-blade. But instead of that, when I read the case, I thought adding a third blade, I mean, it was pretty lame. I thought of it should be more disruptive. So I actually wrote my case on women using razor blades. And I got what did I get? I got 76%. I barely passed. I barely got my degree. And the reason is because when I read the case, there was like 2 or 3 lines that says that where a guy was complaining that his girlfriend kept borrowing his razor and he could never find where it was. And I was like, wow, if the girlfriend keeps borrowing it, that means that she's using it. And if she's using it, it's not meant for women. It was black, 2 blades. For women, it had to be different. And so I wrote about a pink razor blade, and it would be very round, and it would be more ergonomic and all those different things. Obviously, that was not what was expected. So I barely passed. Yet, what's interesting, in the razor blade, the biggest disruption was the woman. And so obviously the corrector didn't have my vision, which I think was closer to what the market wanted. So they missed the opportunity, and I think I should have done much better. Everything is about division. Here's an example. The average Joe, if average Joe wants to buy a weapon, a gun or handgun or a rifle or whatever, where does he go? Average Joe goes to Big 5 sporting goods, and there is where he's going to find a gun. Now, if this is a couple and they are a little bit more educated, and maybe they bought something before and they want to buy another gun, where do they go? They go to a more of a specialty store, because if you go to Big 5 sporting goods, as you can see, you can buy a canoe, a backpack, a pair of socks, right? And they do rifles and guns, but that's not their specialty. So Big 5 sporting goods, what's their targeting? The targeting is many different people, many different products, versus Turner Outdoorsman is more of a specific target, more defined. So Turner's Outdoorsman sells to Bob and Sue, the couple married, and they want protection. Now, if you're someone that wants to do security, and maybe you work in an environment where you're doing protection or wherever, do you go to Big 5 to buy your ammunition and so forth? No, you're not the target. You go to Turner's, maybe. But what you do is you buy from a brand that is reputable in this industry. So maybe you buy from Ruger or whatever. Now, if you work for the government and you're in military, or you work for the police, do you buy from Big 5 sporting goods? No, they don't, obviously. They don't buy from Turner's. They may buy from Ruger, but not really. What they do is they look for business contract type of company. So Springfield Armory, Glock, 6 Hour, these would be the company that make those weapons to sell it. So the other day I ran into this, because I was wondering, gee, but what if you are from Al Qaeda? What if you are from Daesh, Boko Haram? If you're a Taliban right now, where do you buy? You're another target for a brand, for a company that sells. So I don't know. You probably don't know, and it's a good thing that you don't. I didn't. And then I found that there is a company that is specialized in this type of customer. It's called Excalibur, and their website is excaliburarmy.cz. And there you can buy a tank, anti-tank, torpedoes, and they specialize in selling weapons to this kind of customer. And that's how they did the STP. So STP, and I use this example, not that it's the standard way of explaining STP, but it's just another way. You can do that for ice cream. You could do this for shoes. You can do this for anything, and anything in the world is S, T, and P. There is different customers. They have different needs. There's different suppliers. And what they do is they look at the different customers and they pick their customers, and then they satisfy their customers. Why 80% or more of businesses fail is because they misunderstanding this. Misunderstanding that you cannot be everything to everyone. Misunderstanding that people have large differences or small differences, and therefore you need to look at these differences and group people based on these differences. That's segmentation. Then you need to identify them as potential targets, then select the target. And once you've selected the target, you need to satisfy. So when I say marketing is about satisfying customer needs, that's not totally correct. Marketing is about satisfying targets' needs, your target's needs, customers. I mean, marketing is about satisfying all customers. It's impossible. You can't do that. So you have to be very specific to who cares for you and who you want to care for, and therefore create the service, the product that will be specifically looking at that group. And that's why STP is the most powerful concept in business, I think, is being the best, being the most on a very clear customer. And then you can be successful. So if you're a small business, what should you do? Should I be undifferentiated? Obviously not. That's disappearing. You can't be competitive being undifferentiated. Should I be concentrated, which means I take several targets? The problem is if you take several targets, you're still kind of going after too broad piece of the market. Most of the time, I would say, to be successful as a small business, as a startup, is you need to be differentiated. You need to come up with an understanding of a specific group of people that have a specific need, and then create the product that really serves their need. Then what often happens is, as you're successful with this and you make millions of dollars, there's a bigger company that comes and they buy you out because they don't want you to start widening, creating other products to satisfy other targets, and then sort of overlap their market. They want to buy you out either to make you disappear, or they want to buy you out in order to better cultivate the relationship with that target that you so well successfully satisfied.